welcome to Season 5, Episode number 7. Let's hope this episode is a lucky one. Of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2023 Australian Grand Prix race preview. As always, we are part of the Ship It Studios podcast network. And you've got Andy, and I'm along with my now regular co-host on the previews, Cody. Cody, it was cold. It's still cold here in Chicago. When's it going to get warm?
Hopefully Friday. And considering I'm gonna be walking around Galena all day on Friday, it's got to be nice, or else it's gonna throw a whole wrench in the mini vacation. So
well, let's hope the front comes through and brings us some warm weather, because I looked out the window today around 11 o'clock and saw snow and was like, "What the hell? It's the end of March. This has got to stop. This has got to stop." But anyway. Well, we're going to talk about something warm, and it's always warm on the other side of the planet this time of the year. So we're going to hop into our Australian Grand Prix race preview in just a second. But as always, you can find our show on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and YouTube at Outlet F1 Podcast. See our link tree. If you're on YouTube, click the like or subscribe button. And if you're on your favorite podcasting app listening to us, please do us a favor and click that 5-star button. This will help get us our content to you that much quicker. You can email our show, as always, at chatnow@outlapf1.com. You can find our website, www.outlapf1.com. As always, we are continually grateful to our monetary supporters who continue to step up and support the show. Thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and Jonathan Scott. And a special shout out to Dean Warwick. We're actually going to be racing in your sort of neck of the woods. He's from New Zealand. So He doesn't have to be 12 hours ahead of the action like he always is. So shout out to Dean. If you'd like to become a member of our hashtag OutletF1 Nation, do us a favor. See our link tree in our show notes. $1, $5, whatever you'd like to do. We will most definitely be grateful and use it to buy new equipment for the show. Our platform here has just done some updates. We've got some hardware in the pipeline and on order that will be coming forward in the next little bit once I learn how the heck to use it, which I'm trying to do. So we'll debut that as soon as I get it all calibrated. If you'd like to take advantage of our code OUTLAP with the good folks at Manscaped, please go ahead and do that. You get 20% off and free shipping. If you'd like to check out our buddy Vincenzo Landino and his shirt line, thef1guy.com. It is good quality merch at not a terrible price. It's probably a little bit better than some of the F1 official merch, if just an opinion there. And our final sponsor, the Portage Park Development Project, the thriving community in the Upland Metaverse. If you're from Chicago, Portage Park will sound familiar because the Upland Metaverse is based on real-world cities and properties. Portage Park is an actual neighborhood in Chicago. We want to show the best that it has to offer. Come join us. Links to the Portage Park Discord server, racing track maps, and socials are in our podcast show notes. We hope to see you, as always, in the Metaverse. All right. So we've had a week off, but that doesn't mean, you get a week off, but that doesn't mean that teams don't do things during that week. And the biggest story to cross over the course of the last couple of weeks is the big shape-up at my team, at McLaren. So just to kind of recap it for you, James Key is out as the technical director. That was made effective immediately. The Formula One will now exist for McLaren with a technical executive team, which has 3 new specialized technical director roles who report directly to the team principal, Andrea Stella. So one is Peter Pedrumu, a Red Bull Adrian Newey disciple. He moves into the role of technical director of aerodynamics. David Sanchez, we mentioned him, coming over from Ferrari. He will be the technical director of car concept and performance, although right now he's on gardening leave because he just left Ferrari a couple weeks ago. So that position will start January 1 of 2024. And Neil Howdley is now promoted to the newly created role of Technical Director of Engineering and Design. And that wasn't all that they shook up. They moved some other pieces around. Giuseppe Pacey is promoted to Director of Aerodynamics and Chief of Staff to support the running of the Aero department, and he will report directly into Peter Pedrumu. And Piers Teen moves into now the expanded role of Chief Operating Officer for the McLaren F1 team. So lots of big shakeups here. Cody, what's your initial take on all of this?
Well, I don't think that that McLaren had too much of a choice on this one. I was really hoping for your sake and for Lando Norris's sake that the beginning of the season would be a bit better for McLaren than it was at the beginning of last season, and it looks like they've just slipped even further back relative to the other teams. So I think the shakeup was probably necessary. You were telling me before the show that they've kind of gone back to how they were running the team prior to Andrea Seidel joining the team. They've kind of gone more back to the principal like team instead of a more linear management structure, right? So,
right.
I'm looking forward to seeing if it helps with the car more than anything else, because like I said, especially for your sake, well-performing McLaren leads to a happy Andy.
That's true.
I'd love for them to come back.
I would like not to be sitting in my chair on a race doing like this, going like, come on. But, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. But so here's kind of my take on all of this. It was clear, it's been clear that the new regs and James Key never really quite meshed really right. I thought he did an amazing job under tough circumstances with the MCL 35M, being the only team on the grid that had to change engines and created kind of a double car, in order to make all that work. They had to use all their development tokens, and they made it work. And that car ended up winning a race and was going to possibly win the Russian Grand Prix, if not for God literally telling Lando Norris, it's not your time. But in the last 2 years, they have come out of the box poor. And you can't deny that. So I think that eventually doomed James Key. The move, I think, is the knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, that's a reaction to this season. It's a combo of factors. One, you've got with the Seidel move, now you've got Andrea Stella coming in, and he's been given the latitude and kind of the gravitas to design the team as the way that he wants to. Two is, they've got Lando Norris on extension. His contract, I think, is up going into the 2026 season. So they want to prove that, they're ready to go by 2025. That has been the mantra. If you listen to all of the stuff, the wind tunnel, which they've shown pictures on social media, is now coming up online. So they're in the process of getting that thing ready to go. But it's been all about this push for 2025. So coming into this reg change, they've, finishing third, and then last year slipping down to fifth, I think put that timeline in danger. And it was clear to anybody watching that they weren't developing quick enough. Teams like Alpine were faster than them at the end of last year. And so the results weren't coming quick enough to meet that goal. And I think finally, even though, it's explainable and you can say, yeah, they changed the regs on them and it affected the team poorly. But the fact of the matter is they didn't make the deadline of starting this season. This car is not complete. It's not fully refined. There's clear deficiencies in it. So not meeting that launch deadline was probably not going to cut it. And I think that's why you probably ended up seeing James Key get the axe, and my head rolling out of Woking is pretty much because of that. So I'm hopeful. I mean, whenever you make a big shakeup like this, it's going to take time. I've been preaching to everybody who sees me in my hat, who asked me what the hell is up with this team. I said, be patient, be patient, be patient. Good things come to those who wait. I waited 9 years between race wins once. I can do it again.
Yeah, you don't want to do it again.
No, I don't want to do it again, but I'm not going anywhere. So, but I do think this is a step in the right direction. And I've said before, if things weren't happening, Zach Brown is not going to let failure just continue to percolate. They're going to make changes. This is, I think, a result of all that. So I hope it works. We're going to see what happens. I think probably this weekend is the way I'm looking at it. We've got one more painful race, and I don't know that it's the magic upgrade package, but it's the upgrade package that'll at least kind of let us see really where they're at. coming in the next race. So I'm hopefully that, if they can steal some points here, that's gravy for me.
Yeah, if it gets them back ahead of like Williams and Alfa Romeo, I think it'll be worthwhile progress.
Yep. So that was the big shakeup over the course of the last couple of weeks. Next story on our docket: Stefano Domenicali was actually in the MotoGP paddock over the course of this last weekend, and MotoGP had a kind of crazy start to their season. If you want to watch what Human Missile looks like, just Google Marc Marquez /Portugal, and you'll get to go see what he did over the course of this weekend. But somebody was interviewing him, and he said, yeah, I'd like to kind of get rid of free practice. I don't know that that's such a great idea there, Stefano. I don't mind them getting rid of a session or two. But Cody, what's your take on that?
So clarifying first, it's not just that they would not be airing free practice on like TV or anything. They would be completely getting rid of the sessions, correct?
What he was floating was no running on Friday.
Man, I think that would be, I mean, they would probably still have the one free practice before qualifying if they did that, but I personally don't think it's a good idea. While free practice may not be particularly interesting to, a more casual viewer of Formula One, to diehard fans like, me and you, it's still just as fun to watch. In fact, I think sometimes free practice can be, very exciting just on its own because everyone's testing out the limits of the cars. You get a lot of, spin outs, people going through gravel or crashing. To me, that's very exciting. And you'd be missing out a lot of that by not having those practice sessions. So their appeal is maybe a little bit more limited, but I think they would be missing out greatly by getting rid of them completely.
Yeah, I mean, I know over the course of maybe the last 20 years, the significance of the Friday running, at least in terms of it's a harbinger of what's to come in the rest of the weekend, isn't really holding. Like, I remember when I first used to get into Formula One, they only used to air Free Practice 2. They never even aired Free Practice 1. And so when I would watch Free Practice 2 and I would watch that quali sim, I would kind of go, okay. And that would kind of really hold. It was kind of surprising how much that session would kind of hold out throughout the rest of the weekend. I don't think that's the case now. You've got teams like Ferrari that, turn the power way down on Friday only to turn it way up on Saturday. And so I don't read into any of the session times. What I do read into is like when a team comes back out and they're on that first hot lap, how high are they jumping up? Are they going from like P19 to P4? Well, okay. That tells me regardless, that car's got some pace in it. I don't know right where it's going to finish, but I know it's got something in it. And I find it fun to watch the teams operate. Again, I would always say, however you're watching, find a driver, be on their onboard while you're watching, even a free practice session. You're going to get so much more out of it because you're going to hear their feedback back to the team. You're going to hear how the engineers develop what is a good push lap versus a bad lap or when they abort, and also have that live timing on. It's a great resource to see, where are they pushing? Where are they making their lap time? Where are they not making their lap time? And then even though the race runs, there's nothing really exciting about them, but I'm looking up and down that grid and I'm going, okay, this is 35.4, this is 35.6, this is 35.8. Okay, this team should slot in right about there. All right, they're kind of on it there, or they're way off. If you've seen a team that's like a second and a half off, well, something's up. What are they doing? Are they trying to introduce something new or whatever? I do get the appeal of maybe getting rid of one of the sessions, because I do know that when you sometimes have weekends where they've nixed the session, it tends to be more exciting. I mean, it's what we do for sprint weekends. So I get it. But no, I think you have to allow these teams to run. One, you need to let the track rubber in properly, because a lot of these tracks that we go to aren't, full service year-round facilities. So some of these tracks are in really kind of not great shape, even though, you take a blow dryer to it or whatever to the surface. That doesn't mean you're really digging out all the muck and grind that's in there. So you do need to have some pre-running before a qualifying session. Do we need 3 hours of it? Maybe not. I mean, maybe we could come with a happy medium of maybe 2. I'd be fine with an FP1 and FP2 and then a qualifying.
Yeah, there would be.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there would be probably a lot more of a shakeup for qualifying the less free practice you do. And while that would be exciting, I don't think the drivers would be particularly fond of that either. You know, having to go into qualifying, only having one session out on track. You know, you don't get in all your, you know, your low fuel runs, your high fuel runs. You don't get all that time to dial in your setup just right so that you're making it as fast as you can for qualifying. I don't know that the drivers would really agree to that either.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to see. But, I mean, this was something that got floated. And it was, you know, whenever there's big picture stuff about, you know, people talking about potential format changes, I do like to kind of put that into the document here. So anyway, we'll follow this if anything comes out of it. Obviously, we know that there's a long approval process. It would have to get proposed. FIA would have to sign off. FIA and Dominicali are not on the world's greatest terms right now anyway. So whether or not this even goes anywhere, who knows? But we shall watch it.
Yep.
Okay, moving to another team that's got a bit of they've got some work to do. That would be the Scuderia. They are looking to introduce a series of upgrades that start here and in the coming weeks, because we know we've got that mini break after this weekend. So we've got 4 weeks between this race and the next one. And they are now really kind of putting their concept to the test here. They're looking to see if their concept is enough to challenge for race wins this year, which is obviously what their goal is. They want to get back into the fight. They've also kind of come out and said, well, we don't think, because we're going to be focused on a lot of data collection, we're not that sure that victory here is necessarily likely, which tells me they're probably going to do what they did in the last race, which is run the thing with the power down and really work on the aero and then turn it up at the very end and kind of see where they're at.
Yep, and it's a good thing that you told me this in advance. Otherwise, my qualifying predictions would have been way off. Looks like probably not going to be Leclerc on pole this weekend. But I think it's good that Ferrari's accepting that they're not where they want to be and that they want to be, using this time for data collection and to be more aggressive with their upgrade packages going forward. I was reading earlier today that they're expecting to bring a pretty significant upgrade in Imola, I believe. So looking forward to them getting a little closer to Red Bull, hopefully, so that, somebody can start trying to snag some wins away from Verstappen other than Sergio Perez. I think if we get, all the races won by Red Bull, even though I'm a fan, it would be not that exciting. So, and I think Ferrari is the only team right now other than Aston Martin that could make that jump to be able to fight for victories. So, looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, and this will kind of be, I think, the first. I mean, talk about Fred Vasseur kind of getting thrown literally into the lion's den here. He's got to show his leadership. He's going to have to preach patience to a fan base that wants to win now, that thinks it's ready to win now, clearly. So we'll kind of see where this goes, and if we hear the magical P word, if we hear that they're pivoting their concept, we'll know that this didn't go as good as they thought it would. All right. So moving into a story about this weekend proper, we've seen in the first 2 races start grid penalties, and that's been caused by literally the start boxes being less wide than they have been in the past. So the Australian Grand Prix organizers have sought out some guidance from the FIA, and they hope they have solved the problem. The start boxes for this weekend will be 20 centimeters wider to try to prevent start grid issues. At least it's a attempt at trying to get this right. I don't want to see 5-second penalties right after a start for when you don't really gain anything. So I would say good move. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, it was very disappointing, especially at the last race with Alonso getting that penalty pretty much right out of the gate. Looking back on it afterwards, he was pretty egregiously outside of the box. But my understanding is that the larger tires that they're using for these cars is causing more difficulty with visibility, especially pulling into the grid box. And so, it might not, like we were talking about with Alonso, maybe he was trying to get to a different part of the track at the start, so maybe that's why he was further out. But for, say, Ocon in Bahrain, it wasn't that far outside of the box from what I was seeing, and you really could chalk it up to maybe he just couldn't see the lines very well. So I think having these wider boxes will help them to, not be getting these 5-second penalties every race for the rest of the season. It also looked like they were painting center lines down the grid boxes as well, with the idea that those would help the drivers line up their cars as they're pulling into the box, and they can see those lines pretty well as they're pulling up. So for once, I think the FIA did a really good job with taking a look at the issues and the complaints and coming up with a pretty reasonable and quick solution. And I guess we'll see in the next race here if we have any more of these penalties. I'm really hoping not, because it takes the wind right out of the sail when you're getting a 5-second penalty within the first lap of the race.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I like this move. I mean, this is a move that actually makes sense. Hey, if we made them too narrow and the drivers can't see, and that's what they're saying, maybe we ought listen to them and see if we can do it. I didn't know the thing about them doing the line down the middle. That's even better. Because you can see a little bit more towards the front of the car. I know the drivers have all kind of said when they changed the regs and they all kind of did the first test last year, how difficult it was that there were just blind spots in visibility. And that's why you've seen, I think, a lot more comings together in the opening laps. In both races, we've seen, front wings and stuff get damaged. And, look at what happened to Piastri and Lando last race, poof, then there's 2 cars out, with one bit of contact there. But, yeah, I mean, again, I'm in favor of this. Let's hope that it solves the problem. Let's hope that we can get the drivers to line up right. Because that, let's see what they actually have. Let's not leave it in the hands of an FIA decision, and let's not put it in the hands of these stewards who can take sometimes multiple hours to actually make a decision. So if we can prevent that, I'm all for it.
You were 2 centimeters off. Looks like your race is ruined.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we will drop our green flag. We're going to get into the Albert Park track facts brought to us by Pirelli Motorsport. Cody, tell us about Albert Park.
All right. We are going to Albert Park this weekend, located in Melbourne, Australia. Got to say, I am loving all of the teams' race weekend posters. They're pretty much all going with the upside down Australia jokes. So really loving that. Number of laps in this race is 58. Length of the track is 5.278 kilometers. That's 3.279 miles for the American fans out there. Pirelli is not going with a skip and tire compound this year like they did last year. So last year they did the C2, C3, and C5 compounds. This year they're going with the C2, C3, and C4. Track characteristics from Pirelli, looking at a 2 out of 5 for traction, a 2 out of 5 for braking, a 3 out of 5 for lateral load, 3 out of 5 for tire stress, 4 out of 5 for track evolution, 3 out of 5 for asphalt grip, 2 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, and 3 out of 5 for downforce. So this track's pretty much right down the middle. Very popular one in the past. Some statistics about past races at the track. Lap records we have for qualifying. The lap record is held by Charles Leclerc with a 1 minute 17.868 seconds in the current configuration, and the race lap record also held by Charles Leclerc with a 1 minute 20.260 seconds, also in the same configuration. Albert Park has been around for a while, and you're going to see that from our most wins at this track. Michael Schumacher holds the record for most wins at Albert Park. That's 4 wins for 4 years in a row, 2000, 2001. Oh, I'm sorry. Missed it in 2003. So we got 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2004. Next best would be the German, Sebastian Vettel, with 3 wins in 2011, 2017, and 2018. So 2 of those with Ferrari. Also with 3 wins, we have Jenson Button in 2009, 2010, and 2012. So he must have been a really big fan of this track. And then 2 wins each for Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Räikkönen. Hamilton got the wins in 2008 and 2015, while Räikkönen got the wins in 2007 and 2013.
In terms of constructors, number 1 would be Ferrari. They have 13 accumulated wins in Australia. McLaren come in P2 with 12 wins. Williams are in P3 with 6. Mercedes then with 4. And Renault with 2. As a temporary facility, so what is this circuit like? Albert Park is quite bumpy, though most of the resurfacing they did in 2022 did improve the matters quite a bit. The circuit at the start of the weekend is usually often slippery, rubbering in as the sessions progress. It's also a circuit that requires a very well-sorted chassis, with several spots on the track where the drivers require a reactive front to allow them then to chuck it into the corner. Melbourne is one of also the faster tracks on the calendar, with Lewis Hamilton's 2019 pole lap at an average of over 235 kilometers an hour. In terms of weather, surprisingly cool in Australia. Maybe they've tapped into our weather here. So qualifying, mostly cloudy skies, a high of only 59. Winds will be out of the south at 10 to 15, a 24% chance of rain, so possibly an odd passing shower on Saturday. And for the race on Sunday, sunshine and clouds mixed, a little bit warmer, high of 64. Winds will be light and variable, only an 11% chance of rain. And I know the FIA has instituted, in terms of the track layout, a 4th DRS zone. So they eliminated it going into the race last year. They brought it back for this year. So they're trying to make overtaking possible here. We shall see as we get into the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got the Grand Prix set up. We are going to take a quick break, pay a couple bills, and then we will get into Cody needs to rally a little bit here. It's our Choose Our Champion predictions format. We're only 2 rounds in. This thing could turn. I could be like way in the basement by the time this thing is done. But come on back. We'll get into all that in just a little bit. All right, welcome back to Season 5, Episode number 7 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2023 Australian Grand Prix race preview. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and it is now time to get into our Mortal Kombat theme.
The theme for my comeback over the next 22 races.
Rally starts now. There you go. That's your war cry. The rally starts now.
Fingers crossed, man.
All right. So we're going to get into our Choose Our Champion predictions game. And as typical, we will start with the qualifying prediction, the qualifying pole sitter. Last year was one Charles Leclerc. I did mention that Ferrari story earlier. It's kind of a warning shot that maybe that might not be the best pick. And it looks like we've all agreed. I am taking Max Verstappen. I think this is going to be a bit of a revenge factor. He didn't make the qualifying lap in Saudi Arabia. Therefore, I think he's going to show what he's got this weekend. Cody, what's your thought?
I am in agreement. I picked Verstappen for pole. Been hearing a lot of stories over the last 2 weeks about, is Max and Sergio Perez the next Hamilton and Rosberg? And while I'm a big Perez fan, I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with Max, and I think Max is going to want to show that this weekend. I originally picked Leclerc until you told me the story about Ferrari and that they're going for data collection this week, so switch that up real quick. I think it's definitely going to be Max.
All right. Well, one thing that we're going to be different on is going to be our lap time. So last year's qualifying pole lap, we've only had one race at this configuration. We mentioned the current lap record is the 1:17.868 by Charles Leclerc, done last year in qualifying. So I'm going to go a little bit slower. I'm going to go 1:18.358 for pole lap. Cody, what you got?
I am going in the other direction and going a little quicker than last year. It looks like the first 2 races of the year, there was a little bit of a shorter lap time this year compared to last. So I went with, actually, I guess quite a bit faster, 1:17.120. So I'm really hoping that it's not quite as cold as they're saying. Also, really hoping that they don't get any of that rain. Otherwise, I might be in trouble on that one. But it's what I'm going with.
All right, very good. So you've got a new lap record. So well, records are there to be broken. That's the saying. So all right. So for moving now into the race proper, our podium from last year was Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, and George Russell coming in from Mercedes in P3. I'm going to go as chalk can be on this. Again, I'm pretty sure, given what I've read about with Ferrari, given what I know, kind of where the pecking order is and what everybody's doing, as this is the last race before a break, this tends to run a little more tight to chalk. So I'm going Max Verstappen P1, reasserting dominance. Sergio Perez being in P2, and Fernando Alonso. He's going to fight it until he's out of gas. So I do think he will come through in P3. Hopefully less controversial this time. Podium number 101 for him.
I have the exact same podium as you. Verstappen, Perez, Alonso. It's what we had at Bahrain. It's what we probably would have had in Jeddah had Verstappen not had that drive shaft failure in qualifying. And I think it's right back what we're going to. Same as the last 2 weeks. That Red Bull is so fast and so far ahead of the competition that barring any issues with the car, knocking on wood, I think it's going to be an easy 1-2 for Verstappen, Perez. And Alonso is the man. I think I don't think anyone is going to take that P3 away from him. He's going to fight tooth and nail for every podium that he can get because he's loving it. It looks like he's loving it. So, yep, same as you.
Yeah, all right. Hopefully that's good minds thinking alike. And of course, then watch first lap Alonso or Verstappen Perez come together and somehow don't make it. But if that happens, I'm going to be happy. I will sacrifice prediction points for entertainment all the time.
Oh, well, you can stand to do that though. You're 2 races ahead of me. I wouldn't say no though to a Russell or Hamilton win. Hamilton win would be really nice, or maybe even a first time winner. If those three crashed out, I think it would put Stroll in a prime spot to get his first win. That would be very exciting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so for our bonus picks this time, I like this grid spot. We're going with P5, P6, and P7. So I'll go first here. Again, I've got Lance Stroll coming in P5. I think that's kind of where the car is legitimately, and Lance tends to, barring some sort of unforeseen engine, whatever, I think that's where he'll slot in. Lewis Hamilton to come in P6. It's weird seeing for me to put him down there, but I honestly think that's kind of where he's going to be. And then Pierre Gasly. I do think there will be some Alpine love on this track. They're kind of right when that's usually where they slot in. So I'm going with that for my bonus picks.
I have for 5, 6, 7, I've got Russell, Stroll, and Hamilton. It's really crazy to say that these, 5, 6, 7 spots are where Mercedes has been slotting in, after that extreme run of dominance. But that's where I got Russell in 5th. I think he's going to be, 2 spots ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton seems to be having a hard time coming to grips with the car, and really looking forward to, big upgrades that they've got coming down the pipe. And I think Stroll is going to be aggressive enough to take that spot in between the two Mercs at 6th.
All right. And now just realizing, I think we skipped our fastest lap in the drivers, so we'll do that now. Last year was Charles Leclerc with the lap time of 1:20.260. I'm going to go with Max Verstappen, again, being way out in the lead and telling Sergio Perez, this is my championship. And I'm going to take the fastest lap point whenever I damn well want, kind of like he did in the last race. So my lap time for that, a 1:20.765. Cody, what's your thought?
I have a little faster than last year at a 1:20.185, but still being set by Max Verstappen. I think, kind of like you're saying, even when he's running way out in front, looking like he's going to win, no doubt in anyone's mind, he's still going to fight for that fastest lap point because he wants everything that he can get and wants to show that he is, uh, no competition, number one at the team. Yep, I think it's going to be Super Max.
As the song says. All right. And our prop bet this race, a little bit different than what we normally do. We're going to say, who's going to be the first engine maker to possibly have some reliability problems on Sunday? So regardless of whether it's the engine that takes the car out, whoever the first retirement is, whatever engine they have will be whoever wins this bet. I'm going to go with a Mercedes engine because I think that's been the only one that's really seen some realistic and true reliability issues. We've seen Stroll go out in the last race. We've seen Piastri not finish the first race. So that's where I'm going. Cody, what's your thought?
I think the Merc engine is also probably a good pick because I think more teams run Mercedes engines than any of the other teams, right?
They've got 3.
That said, yeah. That said, I'm going to go with Ferrari. They did have that really high-profile Charles Leclerc engine failure in the first race, and I think maybe it's not going to fall on them this time, but that one of their customer teams, Haas or Alfa Romeo, might suffer from those engine problems.
All right, so we will lock in our predictions. We'll put the poll up when I post the episode, and we'll see who's going to reign supreme down under with our predictions game this weekend. All right, and as we wrap up the show here, we just wanted to give you guys heads up on when and where to watch your F1 this weekend. Bit of a different time than what you're used to. Thursday, FP1, 9:25 p.m. Eastern, 8:25 Central, ESPN News, F1 in prime time. I used to love this session. It used to be one of the hallmarks of, even when I would work late, I would have it on my iPad. And even though I was working till like 10, 11 o'clock in the middle of tax season, I used to love this session. To get some F1 whenever I can. FP2 will kick off 12:55 a.m. Eastern, 11:55 p.m. Central on ESPN2. FP3 will be 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. Central. That'll be Friday evening on ESPN News or ESPNU. I don't know that that's been necessarily determined yet, so check either channel out. Qualifying will happen Saturday, 12:55 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, ESPN2 by not the dawn's early light, but by the dawn's darkness in this part of the country. The pre-race festivities kick off 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. Central on ESPN2, and then the race itself will be Sunday, 12:55 a.m. Eastern, 11:55 p.m. on Saturday. If you're in the Central Time Zone, that's again ESPN2. If you can't stay up that late, I'm going to have to try to do some sort of a power nap strategy to make this work. The race will re-air, I believe, commercial free on ESPN2, 9:30 a.m. Eastern or 12:30 p.m. That'll have some commercial breaks in it on ESPN News. So you'll be able to get a chance to, if you don't want to watch it live. If you can't do it live and you can't make these, F1 TV is probably your best bet because you can watch the race on demand.
Yeah, if you are going to watch it live and you live around here, make sure you're setting those coffee pots for the middle of the night.
I've got my French press all ready to go. I've thought this out. So yeah, during the pre-race stuff, I intend to brew a pot of coffee, and then hopefully it wears off right when the podium ends, so I can fall asleep right away. So yeah, that will be our Australian Grand Prix weekend. We will be back on Sunday night. It will feel like forever and a day ago by the time we actually do our review. But we'll be back on Sunday night, and we will also actually have a special guest host who will be joining us. So stay tuned for all of that. So yeah, for Cody, it's been Andy. This is always super fun to do. And we'll see you Sunday. And as always, may all your laps be fast.